Next is David Soknacki.
Okay, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, members of Council. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I'm here to ask for your support for the appointment for the councillorship in Ward 44. What I'd like to do is go over some of the points I outlined in the note that I sent to all of you. I'd like to talk a little bit about some of, I guess, what I'll call the frequently asked questions. I'd like to spend a moment about going through my background. Then finally, I'd like to ask you for your support, and I'll try to keep myself to my script without varying too much. First of all, with respect to the frequently asked questions, no, I will not be standing for election for any position on council in 2018. That's firm. There's no fine print, as I mentioned in my note, not for mayor, not for councillor, not under any circumstances. Secondly, the question that comes up most often is about the Scarborough subway. And as I've mentioned a number of times, council has already spoken on that issue. It's made a decision in a fairly firm way, and I respect that decision. Certainly, I believe in facts-based and evidence-based decision-making, but the decision's been made. I won't be raising it. I won't be bringing it up. And I think that my goal on the transit file, as on all files, will be constructive discussion and constructive rather, moving forward as a team as much as we can. I want now to go to a little bit about my background. And first of all, the issue of residency has been brought up. I want to share with you that I have lived at the same residence since about 98, 99. I lived at that same house when I was elected in that Ward 44 area, and so the electors of Ward 44 area have spoken and have supported me in representing that area. Since my stepping down from council, I've had a number of appointments that I've been pleased to serve. I mentioned briefly that I served as chair of Downsview Park and was pleased to have negotiated through council, through the OMB, and through the federal government a major secondary plan for the area. More recently, I was appointed by Mayor Tory for the Police Transformation Task Force, and that report came to your desks early this year, and I had the pleasure and the honor of, mostly the honor, of going to each of your offices one by one to ask for support for that report, which has been made the strategic plan of the Police Services Board, a decision that was made unanimously at that board. Since that time, I've been asked by the School of Public Policy with a number of other veterans, I guess, of this establishment on good governance and reforms that might happen to City Hall. And that report, I understand, is going to be released this week and will be coming to the next executive committee. So that's a little bit of background, but I do want to spend a little bit of time and ask for your support. And I do want to mention as well what has been happening over the last little while, because I think it's relevant, and I'd like to put it out in as fair a way as I think I can. One of the reasons I decided to put my name out after being asked by a number of people is I said to myself, I wanted to gauge on my friends and future colleagues at council whether or not there would be support. And what I did is I called a number of councillors to say, if I put my name forward, would you be interested in working together? I like to think myself constructive. I like to think myself as working part of the team. And at one time, we had a very strong level of support. And it wasn't conditional. It wasn't on waiting for a knock on the door. It wasn't to wait to see if there was somebody else to come. There was a good and frank discussion at that time. And in fact, I did put my name down. I'm proud I've done so, and certainly have no regrets about being here. I want to say to those councillors who said they would support me, I'm going to ask for that support. I'm going to ask that they come forward and be true to their word. And I know it's tough. I was there on that side, and I know I had to make a number of decisions that were tough at the time. And I know I don't have anything to offer. Anything except perhaps a set of shared principles. Because I know when each one of you comes and sits at this table, and when all of the speeches are finished and you're by yourself, you say, why did I come here? And it's to not only make the ward a better place, to make Toronto a better place, but to be true to what's important to each
Can you
one of
please wrap it up?
And so I ask for your support. I ask for you to be true to those principles, and I look forward to working with all of you in a very constructive manner. Thank you very much.
Questions? One question, Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through you to Mr. Soknacki. Could you explain, if you were appointed as the councillor for Ward 44, what your top 3 priorities would be in the ward?
I thought, Madam Speaker, they're only allowed 1 question, not 3.
One question, yes.
I know, Madam Speaker, I'll keep it brief. You know, there's a lot of, first of all, the perspective needs to be one of quality of life for the residents. And in the development that's coming forward, because Ward 44 it doesn't have the density of some of the more central wards, there's the University of Toronto at Scarborough College is making a lot of investment. There's a plus and there's a minus to that. The plus one has to look at the strong investment that's coming forward to manage that with sensitivity. At the same time, there's a lot of angst among homeowners for the rooming houses. That's a very vibrant issue. We speak of transit, and it's not just the subway or LRT or so on. It's working with GO and it's working with Metrolinx, because it's not only getting people downtown, but people have homes and jobs and community activities nearby. So those are a couple of the top issues.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam
Councillor Shan.
Oops.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My question is the same. Highland Creek Heritage Festival had a car display errors happen, and there was a car with a Confederate flag attached to it.
Confederate flag.
On it. And I had sent an open letter asking for answers about how the car got there, what process was used, because it was raised by an attendee but was not taken seriously at that point of time. And since then, there was a statement, but it's not a formal apology to the incident. Or I've asked about processes in which how they would be rectifying the situation. They have referred this to the new councillor who would be appointed. If you were there, what would you have done? If you were informed of it later, what would you have done? I just need some clarity on your stand, because Scarborough is a diverse community. Absolutely. And I want to know where you stand on some of these.
Absolutely. Councillor, I listened to you asking the question before and some of the earlier responses. If one has a community festival and uses community resources and public resources, there is a different standard than strictly the free expression standard. Because we are using public resources and in fact supported by the public, we do have to have a different set of standards. And those standards have to be compliant with the broader community expectations, and we have codes for that. I would expect that what's past is past. It may not be to your satisfaction. Going forward, I would expect that there would really need to be clarity with respect that one needs to respect the no discrimination, the respect for the various communities, and have that as a filter. With respect to the past, I believe that an apology from and rectification, practical rectification from the organizers would be appropriate.
Thank you. Councillor Karygiannis, one question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through you to Mr. Soknacki. If a vote was to come to this council regarding the subway extension that we're doing all over again, how would you vote? On which side? For it or against it?
Councillor, let's see. The leopard doesn't change its spots, so just so you know. I'm true to the principles that I've had. I'm also aware that there's a couple of things. If there's a lot of funding behind it already, as there is, if it's the only way for transit to come forward to Scarborough, then we have to be practical about what's here. And I've tweeted about this earlier on. So it's not to set transit back 8 to 10 years. It's to get transit built for our community and all of our communities.
Thank you. Councillor Wong Tam, one question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Soknacki.
Mr. Soknacki, you served as Budget Chief under Mayor David Miller, as well as Deputy Budget Chief under Mayor Mel Lastman. We will be, in very short time, reviewing the city's long-term fiscal plan. We're going to be making some tough decisions about revenue tools. How would you approach that particular conversation that is forthcoming in a matter of months?
I think the overall principle I've always had is that there's numbers and then there's people and there's human beings. And that what we have, what we're part of is the best quality of life on the planet. And our goal is to make sure that we preserve that. That not only makes sure that we have an attractive place for Nobel Prize winners to come and live and work and do their work, but also for those who are more vulnerable. And I'm sorry I can't say I'm going to vote for this on this and this and this, but overall the principles remain the same. I said the same to Mayor Lastman as I've said to Mayor Miller, that I'm not shy about making the tough decisions that need to be made, but they need to be made through the filter of being a human being and preserving what we have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.